Welcome to the Escape Pod.
What up?
My name is Sal.
I'm Josiah.
I'm Nathan.
And we're here to talk about sand dunes.
Yes. We're here to talk about ecology.
Right.
And about how worms in the ground are part of the natural cycle of life.
I don't really like spice. It's
coarse and rough and irritating.
But we're just kidding. We're just kidding. We're talking about Lawrence of Arabia.
I mean, that's basically what the plot is. Like, it is like it's kind of like Lawrence of Arabia, and oil and pollution and ecology were the influences.
What?
Like, okay, we're talking about a book today, which is, I think, the first time we've dedicated a whole regular podcast to a book.
Round table, yeah.
Yeah, because we've previously talked about books here and there. I mean, even the last Shuttlecast, we were talking about, like, the Witcher books. And
And we've recorded episodes about books, but never with all three of us.
Correct.
False. There was some... Joe had some very
He didn't count.
important inclusions. And
In what?
he points out the clit.
Don't spoil that.
That's
a good moment.
We'll mute that part out, and then we'll cut back. Don't spoil that.
Don't spoil that.
And then we'll cut us explaining it.
Today,
or will we?
Today we're talking about the one, the only, the famous Frank Herbert's Dune.
Science fiction supreme masterpiece, as the cover says.
And you know what? I'm hard-pressed to find a as influential piece of science fiction that's, accessible, I think. You tell people about, like, the Philip K. Dick stories, like, do androids dream of electric sheep? And they're kind of like, oh, I like the Philip K. Dick movies, like Blade Runner, and it's not. But whereas, like, Dune, I feel like that's like kind of a commonplace book that regular people can read.
Can I pause for a moment to point out that I put the book on its spine and open up to a page, and there's a page where the Baron wants the slave boy looks like Paul.
I think that says more about you than
no way
than anything.
Hey, listen.
I open up that page a lot.
Everyone has their favorite scenes in the book that they just go back to again and again.
Yeah. No. Agreed. But yeah, I think like Frank Herbert even was said like he was interviewed where he was like,
yeah, but I write science fiction for people who don't read science fiction.
But it's for people who love it too, and I'm like, you're a good person.
That's
But yeah, talking about
that's half the requirements for people who hired for Halo 4. Anyway.
But Dune, yeah, so we decided to start the book club, and, Wheel of Time kind of missed that train, and whereas I think Dune was a nice thing where we're like, hey, we can read through, well, I say 14, but it's more like 17 books.
Oh, God.
But
sorry, there was a Gom Jabbar in my throat. Could have saved time.
You are not. You have to prove that you're a human to me. So let's talk about real briefly, because usually whenever we do these this is my background with this. It goes on for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So
let's not do that.
So let's not do that, and like quickly summarize each of us what our experience was to Dune pre this book club. I'll just start with me.
Right, you have 6 seconds. Go.
Oh God! So I watched the '84 film as a child, and then my friend Nick Goolsby convinced me to read the whole series, and I read it chronologically under his advice. Which
what a terrible friend.
No. It did make me like the Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson stuff more, I presume. So we'll see how it goes, because we're going to do it order of release, because I think that's the proper way.
Yes.
Or including the movies and games and short stories. We're going to do all of that order of release for the most part. But we're starting with this first one. So I think I read the original Dune, and then I read them chronologically, and that's when I read through all of them. So that my background is I'm
all of them as of the date that you read.
Yes, I haven't read Winds of Dune, which is an interquill, or the newest prequel trilogy. So that's my background. I'm kind of like a Dune fan, read the books, love the adaptations.
So me, Salvatore Heron. I first started off with watching the 84 film, and then I loved that. And then I went to the Westwood RTS game, Emperor Battle for Dune, which I played the fuck out of, because it's amazing. And then I played that like a hell of a lot. And then I read the first part of the first Dune book in high school. And then me and Josiah watched the miniseries, and that's, now here we are. And there it is. And then Nathan, you have 10 seconds.
I first saw Oscar Isaac in The Force Awakens.
Very good job, Nathan. All right, that was a good summation of your experience with Dune.
I just read the first book. I finished that
Yeah,
a couple weeks ago.
So Nathan's like the complete newbie, because I feel like Dune's story is pretty well known. Like commonly, like some of the twists and some of like the iconic imagery and some of the famous lines and concepts in it are pretty famous. So it's kind of cool that Nathan didn't really have any of that.
Yeah, I got no idea what the fuck any of it is.
Yeah, you just kind of knew.
That's great.
Yeah, isn't it great? Like, it was kind of like, that's why I was really excited to do this, because I'm like, well, Nathan doesn't know, but we know. And like, you know a bit less than me, because I know kind of the larger context of the series, but
Yeah.
Nathan kind of knows there's like sandworms or something, and
There's desert people.
it's like a sci-fi, I guess.
I know it's a sci-fi.
It's
And
just
I'm
set in
like, I
space.
don't read sci-fi, really.
I think the easiest way to do this is kind of go maybe from your perspective,
Okay.
because I have read it the most. So I think like if we kind of talk about both of your guys' like, perspectives, like starting the book, kind of going into it, we kind of go from there, and we can branch out from there as to like their thoughts on the whole thing. So if you want to start kind of with how you were thinking the book was at the start,
So
how you kind of got into it.
So, getting into it, I think it has kind of a slow start. There's a lot of terminology and names that they kind of throw at you, and so that slowed me down for a bit. But once they actually get to the Dune planet, it really starts to pick up.
I'd agree. Yeah.
I really like all of the political backstabbings, plottings, behind the scenes shit. Because of my previous reading experience, I was noticing a lot of similarities with
what? What are you referring to?
The Wheel of Time.
What?
What?
No.
There's I mean, there's only so much you can do with fantasy and sci-fi. Like
That's completely not true.
You don't have like infinite directions for your story to go. So I think
So you're saying the Aes Sedai have no
there's a lot of overlap because
Right.
there's really no other way to write a story.
No.
So, Nathan, what you're saying is that Bene Gesserit aren't the Aes Sedai.
There's no comparison there.
And the Fremen aren't the Ale.
No, I'm saying that they absolutely are, but that's that's all you can do when you're telling the story of Dune. And that's what the Wheel of Time is about.
when you're telling the same story,
Just a lot slower.
just a lot
A lot fucking slower.
a lot slower.
I bet if you like just stretch like Dune like over the course of Wheel of Time, it would just match up perfectly.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like watching the first two Transformers films back to like all at once. It just all lines up.
Yeah. No, I'd have to agree. I'd say like when I was rereading this, because again, this was a foggy memory from like 2012. What's cool about like kind of throwing all the terminology and lore at you is like it's kind of putting you in Paul's mindset, because by the end of the book you're kind of like Paul, where like you have this knowledge of like all the working parts, and you know how everyone's gonna get cocked and how like it's all gonna work. So it's kind of cool in that respect. But I definitely agree with you where it took me like 2 chapters, and then I kind of got more into it because I was reading the scene with the Baron, and it's kind of like Frank Herbert going like, okay, I'm just gonna tell you where the story is going. But what's cool about that, Frank Herbert subverts like every like trope of how to tell a story. Like, no, I'm just gonna tell you who the traitor is and make it dramatic irony.
It's really, really good.
And I'm just gonna tell you like all the main characters who are basically gonna die, and like foreshadow that the main character becomes the quote unquote chosen one. But he subverts all of it in such a way where it's like you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't really know how this is gonna go down.
This turned out exactly how you said it would, but it's not what I expected.
Correct.
Which is like so masterfully done.
Yeah, because he frames the whole book as this sort of like
History.
history, as if like we are going back and seeing because Frank Herbert does this thing where, you know, we talk a lot about George R. R. Martin and his POV switching, where Frank Herbert's really good at like switching between characters' POV within a chapter. I'm never like confused.
Within a page.
Within a
it's really
page.
interesting.
I'm never confused.
In fact, within like a conversation sometimes.
Oh yeah, he'll just go, and then they thought this, and then they reacted to that
like
thing they
And it
said.
goes from Jessica to Thufir to Jessica to Thufir, and you're
Yes.
like, I keep pace with this.
And it's
What's happening?
effortless because Frank Herbert, in my opinion, I don't know how you guys feel, but I feel like he's got that
Hack fraud, definitely.
Hack fraud, Frank Herbert. What he does best is like he's able to like put these really complex, and now sometimes it's a lot, but he puts this like complex like mechanics of like prescient vision and like all these interconnected like political things, but you're never like truly lost. Like you understand like what he's saying. It's never like real confusing.
Yeah, like especially with the prescience. And pretty much anytime it pops up, Paul kind of brings up, oh, there's limitations. I can't really see that far. And it's like, oh, okay.
One of the most excellent uses of that is Paul early on, once he starts getting the vision, sees like his death as a possible future.
Yeah.
And then like they see this whole thing of like, well, who could possibly kill Paul? And they set up like, oh, Paul's like, oh, is this the guy who's gonna kill me? And then at the end of the book, it's like, no, he just cucks the Emperor and doesn't do it.
Yeah, it was cool whenever there was like a prescient scene and Paul's like, oh, it's a foggy area. I gotta be fucking careful right now.
It's so cool how Frank Herbert shows the prescience as like a weakness.
Yeah.
How it makes him more disconnected from his loved ones and how he sees like the grief that he should be feeling, but he's like, no, there's no time right now. I have to like literally focus on that grief later. He does that twice, specifically with Leto, his father, and Leto, his son.
Yeah.
Which is a nice parallel. But anyway, back to what you were expecting.
And also his him completely like no idea where and
when he is.
Yeah. So he's sort of like
Is
that something I saw of the future? Is that a memory of something that happened, or is that a memory of seeing the future?
Yes.
It's really freaking trippy, and it's just slowly him going, no, this part happened.
Yeah.
So I'm roughly here in this timeline. But.
Yeah.
Or I love when he's like, this went differently the way I saw it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, yeah, it's great because, again, Frank Herbert, like, he's taking these, like, archetypes and these tropes and, like, the hero's journey, but he's completely, like, turning it on its head and going, like, no, chosen ones are bad. Like, the whole book, like, as soon as, like, you realize, like, because it's presented as a history, as soon as, like, it's pretty clear, like, oh, Paul's going to become this chosen one figure for the Fremen. Okay, I know where this is going. He's going to get revenge on the people who did him wrong. But the whole rest of the book is just Paul going, oh, yeah, this is me getting what I want, but I have to stop the jihad. And
the jihad is like, I gotta fucking stop the jihad.
It's great how much Paul's like, I'm probably going to beat the enemy, but, like, I know
destroy the universe.
I know that I'm going to, but like at what cost? And he like can't turn from the path because honor dictates it.
I love the bit where he's like, I can end the jihad right now if I kill myself and everyone in this room.
Yeah, and he considers it for like half a second.
Yeah, he does. It's like, oh Jesus Christ, dude. Yeah.
Not to jump around too much. Let's going back to like going through it as you were kind of going. So you said, we get that opening scene with the Bene Gesserit, Mohiam, who, trained the main character Paul's mother, who's a concubine to...
Helena
Mohiam. There's a Gaius in there. Gaius Helena Mohiam. She tests Paul with the box.
Yes.
Now, kind of going through, like, mentally, like, what are you thinking as, like, this scene with the box is happening about, like, testing Paul and, like, kind of getting introduced to, like, him and what he's thinking and...
Personally, I'm thinking about National Treasure 2.
That's so funny. Like when what's his fuck?
When he puts Santa thing.
Yeah.
I like how you immediately know that Paul isn't just like a little shit. Like he's actually really clever and he's very perceptive.
Yeah.
Just because of certain anime that I've seen, the whole I need to verify that you're human kind of thing. I kind of got that impression of, oh, this is so far up its own ass. This is such a dumb, like, oh, there are people, but who's the real human? And like, I hate this. No, no, that's not what I want. But it kind of goes away after Paul gets trained. It like pops up again in conversation every now and then, and I'm like, this means nothing to me. I don't know if you're going to do anything with it.
Yeah, because at first when you're reading it, you're like, wait, what are they testing for? Why would you test for being human? I don't get this.
Yeah.
It's only until later that you kind of guess, like, oh, because there's, like, people that are so corrupted by the spice, and they're, like, mentats, and, like, I get it.
And here's the thing is, so let's talk about some of the lore, because I think, like, thematically that kind of ties into what I'm thinking about the lore, and I do have knowledge of what gets revealed later.
Right.
But we have this thing where early on in the history stuff, they mentioned the Butlerian Jihad, I believe.
Yeah,
they mentioned the Butlerian Jihad and like how at one point humans couldn't think for themselves and machines ran everything.
Yeah.
And at some point we overthrew the machines, and that's why we have mentats and human computers, because we need like the ability to like evolve and like advance in space travel, but we can't rely on machines because they're illegal. So I kind of feel like, and there's a few cool little parallels that I think Herbert was building in, but won't really come into focus till later. I think the whole cool parallel of there's a Butlerian Jihad overthrowing the machines, and then Paul is overthrowing kind of a different form of control, which is the guild and the spice.
Yeah.
Because we don't know when the spice was discovered.
Right.
So the spice could have been discovered way after to like advance mankind. But I also found it a cool parallel that the Baron is kind of like representative of all that was wrong before the Butlerian Jihad. Like he's slovenly, like he's like lazy, he doesn't give a fuck. And like we know him, he's like a calculating character. Yeah. But like he at least kind of symbolically represents like the proof of being human is that you are not beholden to like your baser instincts, you know, and like you're able to consider, like the Fremen, they consider the greater whole when it comes to their own lives.
Yeah, and then there's stuff where like jumping way forward to Liet Kynes.
Yeah.
In the appendix, right, where like it tells a Fremen, hey, listen, like I can change the planet, it just takes 100 years. And they're like, all right.
They're like, all right. Like,
I understand things take time.
Yeah.
I want my great grandkids to be happy, and it's like,
Nobel Prize, Fremen.
You'll have water.
You'll have water. But so what did you guys? Because I know, you know, obviously Sal, you kind of have an idea of the Harkonnens.
Yeah, and it helps that like I know because I have a lot of some lore knowledge and stuff. So
yeah,
I think their first scene is a bit weird.
Again, rereading the book from my POV, I didn't really like the first Harkonnen chapter, but it immediately grew on me. Like once we got to like the second, because like the first chapter is
a bit too like explanatory of like we're the villains.
It's definitely like Herbert's.
Let me tell you how evil we are.
But it's not like that. It's just kind of like, I feel like the scene kind of... So what Herbert excels at is like having conflict between the characters. Like even characters who are allies and friends are constantly like, oh, did I like show them disrespect? Or like, especially with Paul and Stilgar later, there's like power dynamic of like, we're allies, but he feels like I could like challenge him and kill him. But so like what Herbert excels at doing that. So like in the first Harkonnen scene, literally like the scene cycles through. Piter de Vries says something. Says a comment, shut up, Piter. And then it's literally just the Baron telling Piter to shut up for like 4 pages.
Yeah.
And like it's not bad. Like it's definitely good. Like as far as expository scenes go, it's good. But the Harkonnens get so much more entertaining and wonderful like in the later chapters. But initially, like that's definitely the sacrificial lamb chapter where Frank Herbert's like, I need to explain like why Dune is important and like why these people want to like fuck the Atreides Day, because there's a lot you have to take in right now. So many characters, you know.
I love how, like, competent yet incompetent the Baron Harkonnen is.
When you finally finish the book, like, he's like...
It's like, wow, you, like, are selectively competent.
I don't know, Nathan, what was your kind of perception of the Harkonnens as a whole kind of being the... It's kind of like the parallel POVs, because we kind of center on Dune, then we'll cut back over to what the Baron's doing and what Feyd's doing.
Yeah, I will say we touched on it a bit, the changing of POVs. I think a lot of the Harkonnen chapters especially are when you see it really done really well, because it's not only this person says something, then thinks something, then this other person says something, then thinks something. But a lot of what they'll do is a person says something and thinks about how the person they're talking to will react, and then you get the person's actual reaction. Sometimes it lines up really well, and sometimes it doesn't. And that's really interesting.
It's a lot of fun.
Who's good at reading people and who isn't.
Especially I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but especially like when the Fenrings come into the picture, and like the Baron's kind of like, no, I'm really powerful, and the Emperor would never like fuck my day, and then they're just like, no, the Emperor's really displeased, Baron, and he's just like,
You should really stop swinging your cock around. It's like, no, it's fine. It's like,
Yeah, Herbert is so good at making the Baron like, oh man, like, how are they going to beat this guy? And then like they have like the Emperor come into the picture, and you're like, oh, he's just a small fish, like, in comparison to like the Sardaukar and the Emperor and all that.
Sardaukar.
Well, it's great because it's kind of like what, jumping around again, you know, the Baron has this plan of sort of winning over the other houses, gaining more and more power, and all of that. And the big fear that the other houses have is that the Emperor can just at any point step on each of them individually. And so the Baron is trying to like gain up more power, and then the Emperor just completely cuts him off way too early, and it's like, no, I'm going to address this issue. And he's like, fuck!
Yeah, in the final like fourth of the book, the Baron's pretty much just like
a bitch boy.
He's a bitch boy, like he's sidelined. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Because he is the main villain and this overarching threat for so much of it, and then he dies before the climax even. Like none of the main characters besides Alia even confront him at the end. Like Paul doesn't even really concern himself with the Baron specifically. He's like, oh yeah, because Alia like sends him a message where she's like, oh, I killed our grandfather. He's like, okay, that's done. Let's take care of the Emperor.
Well,
you know?
It's great because it's so great how he's just like, oh yeah, by the way, Mom, we're related to the Harkonnens. You're his daughter. And it's like, oh.
At the end of part 1, bombshell drops. Oh, by the way, the Baron is Jessica's dad.
And it's so funny how Paul just instantly sees past this little conflict that is still like the focus of the whole first book. He's just like, I got bigger issues. I don't give a fuck.
He sees the jihad. Stupid.
Yeah, no, he's like, no, but it's really creepy, like, the way, like, they build up to that moment, because he's like, he looks at, like, the genetic structure of his mom's face, and he's like, oh, you're a Harkonnen. And it's like, and he's like, and I'm a Harkonnen too.
And it's so funny, she's trying to, like, it's like the various stages of denial. She's trying to, like, bargain with her. Oh, we must be, like, this offshoot that, like, broke away from...
He's like, no, you come from the Baron.
Which weirds me out, actually.
It weirds you out?
I mean, okay.
I can't picture Rebecca Ferguson being the fruit of...
Well, you don't know who the mom is, though.
Let's talk about... Here's a touchy subject. Let's talk about sexuality for a moment. Now, as we are presented in the books...
Okay.
In the book...
Yes.
It seems to me that the Baron is gay.
Correct.
So, and I feel like what the book was saying was the reason why Feyd-Rautha is the heir is because the Baron doesn't have any kids because he's gay. So, because the only evidence to him not being gay is the fact that we have Lady Jessica.
Correct.
But then why is Feyd the heir when, if the Baron is sexually active with women, why doesn't he have a good match with another noble house, even if it's a lower house, like whatever the fuck.
Here's
what's the house in the RTS games?
Oh, the one that's canon to the RTS games and in the Dune Encyclopedia is House Ordos.
Yeah, why didn't he marry some lady of House Ordos?
Here is what is not stated in the book, but they kind of imply to you, and again, when we get to the prequel books, you'll find out how it all happens. Don't worry. Whatever. But the whole point that they imply in the book is the Baron, anytime you mention the Bene Gesserit, he just gets fucking angry. Yeah. He's like, you guys are the worst. I would eradicate every single one of you. And he's like, you are the worst thing in the universe. And so what the whole book sets up is so many times they're like, yeah, if you get trained in the Bene Gesserit ways, anybody you want is yours.
Yeah.
You can literally just, like, say a few words and anybody will do whatever you want. So, like, what I believe Frank was implying is that Baron Harkonnen was forcibly seduced by a Bene Gesserit, and that led to a pregnancy. So he was basically mentally, like, raped. Like, well, he was physically raped through mental control.
Yeah.
And that is why he is so, like, against them, because he views them literally as, like, because the Baron's very independent. He's, like, standing in the room with, like, a son who could easily kill him, and he's like, he won't do a single thing to me. But when it comes to the Bene Gesserit, he's instantly like, you were the one thing that represents what I can't control. Because even with the Emperor, he's like, I can kind of, like, trick him, I can worm my way around it. But when it comes to Bene Gesserit, he's like, no, like, you guys are unnatural and you shouldn't exist.
So what we're saying is that the Bene Gesserit, throughout thousands and thousands of years, were gene-controlling children. And then they got Holto, and all of a sudden it was like, oh shit, he's gay.
Yes. And so to me, what they implied is that, like, that's not normal procedure. They can, like, either make you fall in love with them or you'll just fall in love with them because they're all, like, insanely beautiful and charming. But with the Baron, they needed his genetic code, so they used the voice on him. And that's why the voice, he, like, knows about it. Because all like, Thufir doesn't know about the voice, really. Or, like, all these characters kind of are figuring out, like, the true extent of the voice, but the Baron, in that scene where he has Jessica tied up, knows the full effect of the voice. He's like, no, I'm not playing with that. So to me, that's what was being implied, is that because he was gay, they had to take certain measures to obtain his genetic code. Because that's what is implied. It is not directly stated, and that is not exactly what happens in the prequels.
Which I think I think that could also back up why it's not just that he is gay; it's that he prefers very young, vulnerable boys. So that I could see as a psychological need for dominance.
Correct.
Not to get into psychoanalytical. Psychoerotic
fixation.
But that's what it is.
But
yeah, that is my, like, they never say that, but that is how I have always read the reason why the Baron has a secret daughter that he had no influence over and had no control over, and he has had no other heirs since because he's just not wanting to. Yeah. Because it's not possible.
Why would I want an heir when I have Feyd?
Correct, and Feyd's perfect.
Beautiful Feyd-Rautha.
Feyd-Rautha's perfect. He's the perfect, like even Lady Fenring in that one scene's like, oh, he's not gonna let himself get fat.
Yeah.
Because even the Baron is just like, he looks at Rabat and he's like, yeah, he's muscular, but he could already see he's gonna need suspensors later on. It's so funny.
Where's Feyd?
And then don't they confirm that that Feyd does end up fucking Lady Fenring?
Yes. So that's
because they say they've secured his genes.
Yes,
so and she talks about.
That's another thing where, like, Frank, I don't like. I think it's a combination of him being subtle and him wanting to write more books, because there's certain things like, oh yeah, and like they mention in the climax, like, oh, Feyd and Paul are fighting. We need like we want both of them to still be around for the Kwisatz Haderach project. And then like they're like, yeah, and like Feyd has a bastard daughter, and we got Alia, I guess, but we can't have them kill each other.
Yeah.
And then you're like, wait, Feyd's bastard, and then you immediately go, oh, because Lady Fenring got the genetic oh, so I don't know. I think that was him, either probably both, being real subtle, but also like, oh, maybe in the next book, like the bastard daughter comes back, and you're like, oh, okay. So yeah, but I remember you, Sal, saying off mic that you had an issue with Feyd in the book of some sort.
I have an issue with the Harkonnens.
Okay, go ahead.
I think that like we see them far too infrequently.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like we get like snapshots of what they're doing, but there's like they're doing so much more, and like, yeah, why can't I fucking see that?
I do think like having Feyd as the co-protagonist would really
what I thought it was gonna be was like you see Paul going through his thing, and then Feyd go through his thing, and then at the climax at the end, it's more satisfying. But like,
yes, and they're kind of doing that, and then you reach the third part of the book, and Feyd just disappears till the end. Yeah,
which is dumb, because I feel like if you would set up Feyd and showed Feyd way more when the final fight happened, it would have been like, oh shit, the two protagonists.
Yeah.
And I would say even the Harkonnen scenes that we do get, it's not them generally, not them actively pulling off their schemes. It is them going, oh, we set all this up and we'll see how it plays out. And then next time it's like, played out like we thought it would. It's like,
I agree.
I mean, I love Feyd's fight.
Feyd's fight's a really good chapter.
In the pits where he's like,
it's a great way.
There's no shield, and
it's a great way of setting up, because it's like the book has these things with plans within plans within plans, feints within feints within feints.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I don't know if Thufir actually is using this trick to make me look good to kill me. He maybe, and maybe he doesn't care either way. And it's just like there's so many layers of like the characters thinking about what's going on.
Which it's really funny. So, like I've said, I know nothing about Dune.
Well, now you do.
Yeah, I now know about one out of 17 Dune books.
But 6
you're
that are
lucky,
canon.
man.
Yeah, 6 that are canon right now.
But one thing that was brought up before we did this read through by Josiah and Sal is the importance of Duncan, Idaho.
Oh,
and
sure,
and his stuff. So I assumed that the slave that Feyd fights is Duncan.
Right.
But they never say his name.
Right.
And then he just dies.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, I guess it's not.
That would have been... No, I'm thinking about it now. That would have been an interesting...
That could have been awesome.
That could have been an interesting...
Wow.
That could have been real cool.
Because I thought he was just going to keep dying but coming back, because first they're like, oh, he was in the prison when the Harkonnens took over. He's probably dead. Then he saves Paul and Jessica, and then immediately dies in a gunfighter struggle at Kynes' hideout. Yeah. And then the slave pops up fighting Feyd, and it's like, they never say his name, and now he's dead.
I'll just say this.
Maybe that's going to be how it is in the movie.
Hey Denny, if you're listening to this, just think about that.
Yeah.
Just call up your boy J-Mo and be like, hey, you guys should do the slave fight scene.
We need you to fight Tom Holland.
I'm still going with Tom Holland as Feyd until proven otherwise.
That'd be really good.
But here's one negative.
Because they're both Twinkie, like it's good.
Yeah. And Tom Holland's ripped, and have you seen his ass in that Spider-Man suit? It's so good. Much better than Brie Larson's. I'd say one of my biggest problems with the Harkonnens personally is I would have liked more scenes with Feyd. I think we got plenty of Baron. He's used sparingly, but he's spread throughout so well, and like, what?
I do want to say though, Thufir fucking disappears.
Yeah.
Till the end, and I'm like, come on.
I know why he did that though. He wants to make you doubt that maybe Thufir is going to betray the Atreides.
Yeah.
They need to keep that mystery, because Frank Herbert's pretty clear about who's thinking what.
But I wanted to see the moment where Thufir was like, shit. I wanted to realize oh god, there's a drug in me, I have to help them. Oh fuck, I do this? Do I let myself die? What do I do?
Yeah, I completely agree.
I want that scene of Thufir just I want Harrison Ford just what do I do?
Here's a controversial thing. It's not so... Not to spoil it, but in the theatrical cut of the film, you don't see what happens to Thufir, of the 84 film. In the deleted scene, you get to see what happens to Thufir, and I actually think it's a little bit better than the book in terms of how Paul reacts to the death and Thufir's kind of actions. That's my opinion. We'll see it if we watch Dune Redux, but...
That's just my opinion.
That's just my opinion. But I do I do think that like, yeah, we could have gotten some more Thufir, but I think my biggest problem with the Harkonnens is just like, well, yeah, they talk about Gurney's like, yeah, the scar is given to me by the Beast Raban. And then you get a really good scene of the Beast Raban like coming in, and you've been built up, this guy's like a fucking monster, he's a brute, like he just mindlessly kills things.
He's an animal per se.
He's an animal. Dave Bautista. But so then he has the scene with the Baron where it's like, no, he's really fucking smart, because he, more than anyone, before anyone's like, yeah, the Fremen are clearly the biggest threat to our like stay here, and the Baron's like, oh, that's ridiculous, they were just Thufir's men dressed up, and he's like, I don't think that's true. Yeah. And then Raban disappears, and
for
then
the rest of the book,
because then he's the main antagonistic force on Arrakis during the time skip. And then also, and both adaptations show Raban dealing with what is happening on the planet, which I like.
Yeah.
But in the book, you don't see his like freakouts. You don't see him like kill someone in a rage. You don't see him sweating. And then like
you don't see him react to like, oh shit, I'm cut off. What do I do?
No, you don't see that scene. And then you get this like bit of Gurney again, like reminding like Paul Atreides, like, okay, like I'm gonna side with you, but I have one wish, and I get to kill a Harkonnen. Yeah. Like, and implied like I'm gonna kill Raban.
Yeah,
right.
Of course.
And you set all that up, and you set it up, and then at the end they're just like, oh yeah, Raban died off screen, and like nothing even interesting. Like nobody specifically killed him; he just died.
Which I will say, it makes me very interested for the interquel books, even though they're supposedly not as good, because I'm like, there's so much stuff that is just referenced in here that I want to see.
I can definitely see the impetus to want to do Paul of Dune, the interquel book,
because there's a whole book within this book that they just like, there's stuff that happens off screen, and there's stuff that they do that I'm like, I want to see that.
I agree. Like, there's some stuff that I'm kind of is like, we don't really need to see it, but then there's other stuff where I'm like, I really want more Raban.
I want Raban, just in general.
Well, yeah, because like Feyd, he gets like so much development, and then Raban, like he starts out with a scene that's like, oh, that's the introduction of Beast Raban, and then it's like, yeah, he's just gone. He just dies off screen, and it's like, that's not.
It's so great because you have the scene of the Baron being like, I have to make him even worse.
Even worse,
so it's like, hey, we're not gonna help you, and you have to increase your.
And you don't get any of those scenes of Raban like enjoying his work, you know, in the book.
You don't see how, because I assumed that he was gonna plan something to fuck over the Baron once the Baron starts fucking with his hold, but it's like
no. Even though that scene showed him like really into so there's clearly like stuff that like this book could have probably been like 200 pages longer.
Yes,
it could have like been.
And I would have been happy with that. Honestly.
Yeah, I've been reading Sanderson shit. Give me that 1K pages.
Like I'd probably say those are my like biggest issues with the book. It's just like, again, like would have been nice to have a scene with Thufir. Because like there's characters where we get plenty with, like Stilgar, we get a lot with him. Kynes, we get a lot with him.
Yeah.
Gurney, we get a lot with him. Like almost every other character, like even Alia gets like, for the little time she has in the book, it's like a lot of development in her like few scenes.
I could have done with a little bit more Paul and Chani together, just to kind of see their relationship. I guess it's kind of paralleling how you don't see a whole lot of Lady Jessica and Leto.
Correct. Yeah.
But
and also because Paul becomes more and more distant.
Yeah,
it's really tragic too, because like he sets up this love story, and then just like like how much Paul cares about his family, and then over the course of it, he just is becoming like a god, and he's like it's so sad because like right before the climax, Paul's like, yeah, like I can't stop the jihad. If Feyd kills me, I become a martyr, and they'll say that I was right the whole time, and if I win, then I'm a god. So I just can't win. And like he just wins because he's like, well, I want to be with like Chani, and it really is like a real tragic like subversion of the hero's journey, you know, which is what I like about it. But I overall, like, obviously I love the book. It's really fucking good.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think those are probably my flaws with it, and they're more just like, I feel like Frank was like, oh, that's about the length of, you know, I want to cram it full, and it's like, no, you could have taken like 100 more pages to.
Just like, and also the time skip happened, and I'm like, I wanted to see some of the in the middle stuff.
Sure. Maybe you'll like the interquel.
Yeah. Well, there's this cool, to reference a video that I'm actually editing at the moment, to reference the Warhammer 40k book, Dead Men Walking.
Yeah.
There's two bits where they jump in time a little bit. Not 2 years, but like 2 weeks.
Right.
And there's a bit where a character goes from civilian to like soldier.
Right.
And it cuts and he's already a soldier. It cuts to 2 weeks and he's become a soldier by then. Then he has a scene where he's looking at himself in the mirror and sees how much he's changed. And then it has this whole chapter of like, he remembered. And then it goes through like his like kind of of like as a snapshot of his like last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But then having to go through the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that would have been cool if found like Paul got on the sandworm and then remembered back to like how he got here in the last 2 years, what he's been through.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which that would be really interesting.
Again, like if we were reading it chronologically, then
yeah.
you know.
Well, again, because the upcoming film it's a foregone conclusion that they want to do the first Dune book in 2 movies, correct?
Yeah, I think that's almost
confirmed.
like entirely confirmed.
Yeah.
That is confirmed.
So I'm curious if they'll be using those interquels, to expand on some things, or if they'll kind of... Here's
the thing, I don't know how involved Brian and Kevin are with this production. I'm going to say probably like not that much. I think Denis Villeneuve is like, I care about the first book.
Yeah.
Maybe he cares about like the other Herbert, like Frank Herbert ones, but we don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's more like maybe he'll take like a tiny bit, or he'll just interpret his own in between stuff, because I see like... Because in both adaptations, they do the time skip, but they show like montages showing the passage of time. Like in the 84 film, spoiler alert, not really. They show like him raiding Raban's shit and Raban's getting pissed off. And so, I definitely feel like they might take that.
Yeah, I want to see like Paul like forming his death group.
The Feyd-Rautha. Yeah, I know that's in the interquels. The Feyd-Rautha.
I also... So I want to bring up another thing that was odd to me.
Sure.
Shields and
yes, that's great. Yeah,
and ranged weaponry.
Correct. Yeah. So what questions do you have? If you have questions,
so
las guns.
Yeah,
I say las guns.
So from what I understand of their explanation, if a las gun hits a shield, it basically causes a nuclear explosion.
Well, no. So the way I love how Frank Herbert does this, because he's such a troll. He's like, so it could be anything from like a minor missile to a nuclear explosion. Okay. You just don't know what's going to happen. But the possibility of the nuclear explosion is like too great.
Right.
Like it could be like a small explosion that like takes out a room, or it could take out a mountain.
Right.
So, but it's bad. Like either way, it's bad.
So why don't you just have like really long range las guns and then be like, well, if it nukes it, it's all the way over there and that city's gone. So fuck all.
Because there's treaties. Because not sell to you anymore.
No, there's anti-nuke treaties. There's nothing about that, because this is what Paul fucking does. He's like, oh, I didn't attack the Harkonnens. I attacked the city.
No. But okay, so if you have a las gun, I'm gonna call it a las gun, but it's fine, whatever. If you have a las gun that can hit like the city from, it's implied that like the larger the shield, the more powerful the explosion.
Right.
Do you want to know what's funny about all that you're just saying right now about the shield hitting and causing a big explosion? Sure. I didn't get that at all.
Oh, really? See, I just
thought they were just shields. I thought they were like Halo shields or something. I didn't...
No. Like, I knew this going in.
That's
obviously,
funny.
I knew the lore, but like,
you picked it up and I didn't.
No. They say it several times. Like that's why it's cool. Like, he has a plausible reason for why like blades and swords have such a huge part in the universe's combat, because it's like a highly advanced future with warp travel and suspensors and glow globes and all this shit. But then it's like, why do you use like swords and like knives and shit? And it's like, well, because las guns basically, it's like a nuclear deterrent. Like if someone wears a shield and you hit them, you're dead. I'm assuming that las guns just can't be like, because they set up like missiles and atomics, and those are the only real like long range weapons they have.
Right.
Whereas las guns seems like they can.
And even then, like missiles were like, whoa, you have missiles? What the fuck?
Yeah, it's unusual.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the combat seems to be like, like that's why the Sardaukar are so badass, because it's like they're like the best hand to hand combatants. Not really, but everyone thinks they are. And I don't know. I get like why there's a little confusion because it's like that, and like it's interesting how they're like, oh yeah, and we have atomics and the family atomics, and it's like I'm really interested like how this all happened. Going to the Sardaukar, can I just say how badass it was that they set up the Sardaukar being like the unstoppable killing machines, and then the Fremen are like, yeah, we like lost 4 of our guys and took like 10 of them captive, and they're like, wait. You took the Sardaukar captive, and they're like, yeah, it was real easily. They fought well.
Yeah, it was so great. They were like, they're just like, they fought well. Those were Sardaukar. They fought well. Yeah, it was good opponents. And you're like, and it's so great because it immediately makes me, well, I say this as a compliment, it sounds negative, but it immediately makes me lose interest in Seleucia Secunda, where it's like, oh, this must be like the most terrible place in the world. Oh, the Fremen are way better. I guess the conditions are just harsher on Dune and makes them stronger.
What I took that as actually was Seleucia
Secundus.
I said it right?
Seleucia Secundus, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So the SS planet.
Yes.
That's intentional. Get it?
Yeah. So that planet, I feel like they do pretty good warriors.
Yes.
But they also talk about how the Sardaukar are like pampered and treated as like basically every one of them has like as like royalty.
Yeah.
So I think that while they were trained and battle hardened in that planet,
tortured, yeah.
But when they came back into reality and given all this like luxury,
they were told they were the best, and so that made them soft.
Were softened. Yeah, that's what I saw it as.
Which makes sense.
It was like if the Sardaukar like took that all away, they'd be like Fremen level. But because they are so pampered, the Fremen aren't pampered. They have to live for their everything.
I also took it as like the Sardaukar, like they do have bonds of like soldier bonds, but the Fremen literally like are so bonded that they're like, I will kill myself so you can drink my water, so it keeps the tribe alive. Like they're so devoted to the tribe, where the Sardaukar are like, we're devoted to the Emperor. We're not as like bound that way, because we believe in our own invincibility.
I also love when they're just whenever there's a completely dumbfounded Sardaukar, it's like, how did I get taken captive?
It's great that bit, like the final battle is pretty abridged, but the bit where it's like, and then like sandworms tore like the front of the building off, and they literally were just like, they just were in awe. They couldn't even do anything because they had no conception of what was happening. And it's like,
you have the Sardaukar commander just like standing in front of the Emperor at the entrance to his ship, and he's like, oh fuck! I can't do anything.
So other kind of lore things. Nathan and Sal specifically. Did you guys kind of get how all the factions and groups kind of work together? Did Frank explain that well enough for you? Like in terms of like the Emperor, he's like the head house, and then there's the other houses and the guild, and then Chom is kind of like the Emperor's spice authorization, and like how all that works. You guys got that? I know. So you brought up like, why does this planet have a duke and this one has a baron? I'm like, it's because like their ancient traditions are their own, and so like they just keep those ancient titles of their own societies and not the whole.
I think the question that was the question that was in the back of my mind that they finally kind of addressed at the end. So the guild are the only ones with access to space travel.
Yes.
Why do they listen to the Emperor?
They don't.
Why are they not?
They don't listen to him. They literally. So what was implied to me is that like at any point the guild can just say like, fuck you, we're leaving you here, because they have the Navigators. Because the Navigators are the only one who can, not warp you into a star.
Yes.
They don't listen to the Emperor. They're kind of just like, well, you're in charge. You make sure that we get the spice because you have the Sardaukar.
Right.
You can just kill any house who doesn't get spice.
The Emperor's actual name is like regional manager.
Yeah, he's the regional manager, where they're just kind of like, look, like we have no reason to take control because we're businessmen.
Yeah.
We don't rule. You rule. As long as you get us the spice, the corporation is happy. That's how I saw it. It's like it's kind of like a mutual thing where like the Emperor's like,
the Spacing Guild is just the Ecology when they actually reach their final form.
Yes, where they're like, hey, we basically control like all space travel, so we don't need to rule because we basically run the galaxy anyway. Okay. So you will listen to us, but we need you to make sure, because we can't. Like the guild doesn't really have soldiers; they can't really enforce you to get spice, but the Emperor can, because he has the shock troop Sardaukar. Okay. That's how I saw it, is that like it's a mutually beneficial relationship for them to make sure things stay as they are, which is why at the end like Paul basically just cucks them and say like, I'll just destroy the spice, and they're like, no, please don't say that.
Yeah, they both work in tandem, which I think is really cool, and how the Chom company basically is like, these families are so rich and powerful, but depending on their status, they get certain statuses within the Chom company. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's kind of cool, like it's a company-owned thing, but it's also mixed with like feudal systems, but because like let them do their thing and have their fun. Yeah. Oh, you want to be a baron? You want to be a duke?
Cool.
You want to be
it's
a count?
It's your planet.
Whatever.
You want to be a count? Whatever. It's all just right. Whatever your planet does.
You want to be like a duke? Like just
as long as there's someone on your planet that answers to the Emperor, we don't give a shit.
As long as like I get my spice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Duke Leto, call yourself whatever the fuck you want. I want the rice from your rice fields of Caladan. Yeah. Make sure that export is going, and you can be called whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
Do your thing. Fuck your Bene Gesserit witch. I don't care.
So they also mentioned smugglers. On Dune, and that they've smuggled people off world.
Yes.
So
gotta have a Han Solo.
Well, yes.
Gurney's the Han Solo.
Jeez.
He becomes him. He becomes Han Solo.
So do they smuggle people onto guild ships, or do they have someone who's just gacked out of their mind on spice that can also
that's something they don't really like mention, I don't think. I think you can like basically you can make independent deals with the guild. I think but they make a point of like there's cruise liners, so there's like gigantic fucking guild ships that take like your whole royal entourage and armies, and then you probably get like small puny guild ships that are like, oh, you want to like move some people to another planet, because if they control all the space travel, not every ship is like the giant guild liners. It's not like a bus where like everybody just gets onto the emperors and then you're hopefully taking us where we need to go. I think there's like smaller guild ships where you make a deal like, hey, I'm smuggling these people off. They got some spice. You look the other way, get them to this planet. That's how I think it works. But
businesses do shitty. Listen, the smugglers are like when you go to the front of like a Home Depot and like you own like a farm, and you're like.
The reason I think that's the case is because they make a point of the Fremen bribe the guild to not watch them.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that you can make a deal with the guild at any time as long as you know who to talk to.
Yeah.
And like maybe they do have those kind of like buses that just go back and forth between planets if you pay a little bit.
I love the idea of space buses.
Yeah, well, that's kind of how it is. And then it's like they mentioned, like, it's a huge part of like the Baron and the Emperor side is that like Baron had to pay out the fucking ass to get that many troops onto the planet. Like you have to pay ridiculous amounts to move that many people.
Yeah.
Across space.
It's just a bit in Atlanta when Ern follows the guy through the party, and it's like, let's talk about the drinks and the security fee because your boy has a criminal record. And just like this, and by the end of it, you got $400.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Paul is just paperboy.
Well, here's the thing: is like I it's gonna come up in later books, but they mention that at the end the tall fat guy and the short fat guy are guild navigators, and I was instantly like, wait a minute, but the navigators, but in the other books, okay, I need to like step back and like, because maybe I'm thinking of the adaptations, but I had a very different idea of what the guild navigators were, and I forgot they were just kind of like normal guys. Although I do like the detail that they had contact lenses to hide that they had the pure blue eyes, because the spice is so valuable that like the guild is totally dependent on it. They don't want anybody to know. The Bene Gesserit is dependent on it for their shit. Normally in this kind of a story, I would criticize that the spice is literally like the explanation for everything, but I feel like he kind of justifies it well enough. Yeah. I don't know what you thought.
I was expecting some kind of horrific hubris because he repeats this phrase of the power to destroy something is power over something.
Yes.
Like, that's a terrible moral. That's going to get you bit in the ass. And then the end of the movie, or the book, it's like, oh no, that worked.
Well, but it's book one.
It's book one, yeah.
So like, you don't know what happens.
You can't keep spamming that. I'm going to destroy it all. I was like...
but are you, though? Well, again, I don't want to get into it now because we haven't read it yet, but Dune Messiah is my favorite because of how it builds on everything in this book. And everything you're talking about, that's what Dune Messiah is.
Okay.
It's like, hey, like, what if we... Like, The Dark Knight. Like, what if we took the escalation from the first story and just paid off everything? Like, it all led to this. So like so for you, like, what do you imagine Dune Messiah in like a not like too crazy, but like what's kind of like some general ideas, because it's probably true.
I assume it is not horrifically far in the future from the end of the beginning of Dune.
Right.
I would assume we'll get a lot of focus on Princess Irulan, since
she
does all the openings to the chapters, and she does fuck all in the story.
Yes.
She hides.
She hides.
She hides.
She hides.
She stops the Emperor from like being stupid and getting himself executed.
Yeah. She's like, hey, listen, political marriages are a thing.
She's like, listen, Dad, this is gonna keep you alive and me alive and all of us.
Yeah.
I love when they call Irulan like bookish. And it's like, I know, I'm reading the entire fucking book. I know she's bookish.
I like how the end of the book is just a cuck.
Yeah.
Like, Frank Herbert's literally like, so we just cucked Irulan, and...
It's so good. I cucked the Emperor, and it's like, oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. No, and then I just love how... Again, I don't know if it's him just, like, world building or he actually was, like, planning to write more books, but the Fen rings are so, like, intriguing, because you're just like, wait a minute, but, like... What the fuck's up? Because like at the end of the book, they're like, Paul's like, "Oh, you're a failed Kwisatz Haderach. I can't see you in my visions. Shit,
that's so good."
Because he's like, why can't he see Fenring?
Which like the ability to not see somebody in prescience
is such a fucking important plot point. Like that's what the next book's about. Is it's like, hey, You want to know the limits to prescience? You're going to find out, because it's a double-edged sword. It really sucks. It's like a shitty power.
I'm also be interested to see more of Paul and Alia's relationship and how they're...
Because they don't get a scene together.
They don't get a scene together, but he's like vaguely aware of where she is and what she's doing.
They have because they... Okay, we're not at the movie yet. But in the movie, they kind of play up more the telepathy.
Yeah.
But in the book, I want to stress this because months from now, when we get to the prequels, I want this crystal fucking clear. The Bene Gesserit do not have telepathy. They don't. Like, they don't have it. They just have the race memory and, like, the past lives thing. They can't read your mind, okay?
Even then, the race memory is like the Reverend Mother's, like the
it's not the regular Bene Gesserit.
Yeah.
So I want to make that fucking perfectly clear. They don't have telepathy. Because the Emperor even says, like, wait, Alia has telepathy? And she's like, no, I can just, like, fuck with her because she's a Reverend Mother.
Yeah.
But they have a link. Mm-hmm. They have a link. And there is a point where Paul, like, joins minds with... So, like, in the book, they kind of imply that the Fremen can, like, vaguely mentally link, but they're, like...
the
water of life.
It's the spice water, yeah. They can... For a time, they're all, like, connected.
But it freaks them the fuck out.
Yeah, but it's great how, like, that's how, like, Chani and Paul fall in love, because they're like, oh, shit, we can sense that, like, we love each other. Might as well, right?
Might as well fuck.
It's so great. She pulls him aside and he's like, hey, listen, they're gonna have an orgy out there, but you and I are just gonna...
We're gonna have an orgy.
And it's like...
Here.
Okay. All right,
because that's good, you know, companionship. Again, like, another thing about this book that's really good, everything with the whole betrayal and who the traitor is, because that's not just like something like, oh, I thought you were the traitor. No, that stays for like till the end of the book. Yeah. Like everyone thinking Jessica's the traitor or like Thufir's the traitor. Yeah. And then Paul eventually has to go like, guys, it was Yui. That's impossible. No, it's not. Like, it's basically like, no, it's
actually Yui was the traitor.
Was the traitor the whole time.
I'm also so saddened that his attempt to gain any kind of footing after his betrayal just doesn't work.
No, it kills Piter, which is good.
Yeah,
because like again, like you have to wonder how different would the story be if Piter lived. Like, would the Baron even lose?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love how like whenever when Yui cucks everybody, and it's like the Baron's like, "Well, I trust the traitor.
Yeah,
you're a filthy traitor, but I helped you. Yeah, but you're still a traitor.
You're still a traitor. I don't trust you.
Like, why would you betray your own kind? What are you, sick?
Yeah. Although they do like, even though Yui's cuck for the Baron didn't work, they do like constantly like have the Baron going, sucks that I lost Piter. Like, I can't live without a Mentat near me. And it's like, hey, see, he kind of hurt him a little bit.
Yeah. I still wish I was telling...
and his actions lead to the death of the Baron because he saves Paul and Jessica.
Yeah.
You know, but it just sucks that Leto dies.
Yeah, I told Josiah, I don't know if I mentioned to you, Sal, I was really hoping... So the scene where Leto finally dies, and it's him biting down his poison tooth and unleashing the gas everywhere, I was hoping he would at least get... the Baron would be like Javier Bardem in Skyfall, where it's just like burned on the inside and fucked up, but it's like, oh no, my shield was partially up, but it filtered it.
They also make a point that his shield is like better than everybody else's.
Yeah,
which is cool.
And I've never seen Skyfall, so
you need to watch Skyfall.
I thought you were...
Well, we'll do that for the month of James Bond.
I've only seen Casino Royale.
Oh my god,
both of them.
Yeah, you just.
I thought you were okay. All right,
so
but I've seen more James Bond films than you. How? I don't like James Bond.
I'm not a fan either.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair.
That's why we're doing the month, dude.
One of us likes James Bond movies.
Yeah. No, he likes both Casino Royales.
Okay. All right.
No, it's all good.
All right.
Of the average I've seen. I mean.
Yeah, well, you know.
Oh, that's funny to me.
But I gotta admit, no joke, this hasn't happened to me with a book in a long time, but I cared so much about Leto, whatever you want to call him. I cared so much about him and Jessica and Paul and their relationships that the scene where like the Baron wins and like Leto dies, I literally had to like take a break because I was getting way too emotional. Like, I was actually like tearing up when I read the scene where Leto like fades away and then it's like, and the Baron got away and you're like, this is bad.
And can I just say, I feel like we'd agree you guys might have a different pick, but I think out of all the actors cast so far in Dune, Oscar Isaac is probably my favorite casting of his character of Duke Leto.
I say favorite. Well, Paul is the most accurate.
Ferguson. Ferguson is Jessica. She's real good.
The thing is, I don't have a grip. I don't have a grip on what Lady Jessica's character is still.
What?
What?
Her character?
Well, not her character.
Because she's like the other protagonist.
She is the other protagonist. I can't picture how her scenes will look on film as clearly as I can see how Duke Leto's scenes.
Well, I mean, it depends on how they plan to do the interior monologue shit.
Exactly.
Because, spoiler alert, in the 84 film, they choose to actually have, like, voiceover for some of the internal thoughts, whereas, like, in the miniseries, and then in Denny, I think is just going to do it, like, visually, probably.
Which I feel like having voiceover for thoughts is kind of a lost art form. And
that's why it was weird for people, because it was, like, an older film style, which, David Lynch was doing, and I think it works fine. Mm-hmm. I kind of like it in the movie, but I get why, like, people are like, that's not how you would adapt it, but it's just, for certain scenes, it's tough, like...
I mean, it's better than having the character talk to themselves.
Oh, absolutely. Like, certain scenes, like great scene, one of my favorite scenes in the whole book
Jessica?
is the Yui and Jessica scene is one of the best scenes in the whole book.
Absolutely.
Because the whole time he's like, he wanted to tell her more than anything, but he couldn't, not because for his wife, and you're just like...
And she's kind of picking up on it, but...
She knows he's hiding something, but she's like, he's my friend. He's like, a good person.
I could figure it out. I could use the voice on him.
But I won't, because he's my friend. And I'm like, fuck! And then there's that scene where, like, Thufir and Jessica are, like, facing off, and it's really good, because then she's like, no, I could kill everyone here easily. Yeah, and he's like, oh.
Yeah, the emotional climaxes of the book are so good.
And as I was reading that scene, because I knew Yui was the betrayer, I was like, this scene feels unnecessary. Well, it's cool, but then you realize that, like, Thufir's lied to the whole book, and you're like, oh,
yes,
this one scene impacts, like, his character for the rest of the fucking book.
Exactly, yeah, because Thufir's character, and then
which is a good way that Frank takes your expectations of, like, saying, I'm gonna do this, and then doing something completely different with it, but while still doing it.
But it's still earned.
Yeah,
it's not the Rian Johnson effect of...
I thought we weren't gonna fucking even.
No, I know, but it's just the joke at this point. But, like, the Frank Herbert effect is subverting expectations the right way.
It's because it's just baffling and beautiful storytelling of just how...
Yeah.
That's a good way to say it.
That's Dune, yeah.
Part one is just so relentlessly, like, this isn't a twist. You know this is coming.
And it hurts.
But I'm building up the context for why it's really bad and why it will be so impactful. Yeah. So that you know that Duke Leto is going to die. Spoilers.
It's foreshadowed pretty heavily. Yeah. Yes.
But when it actually happens, it still hits
you. And you get a fair amount of him because it opens with Paul for a bit, and then it cuts to Duke for the most part for the rest of it until he does die.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of I'd
Paul's
say, like,
kind of like observing.
I'd say he hasn't come into his own.
Yeah.
Paul and Leto. I'm gonna switch back and forth the whole time.
Of course.
But
Sekiro.
Leto dies twice. Ha! It's funny because the father and the son die. I love that how in the book, like,
I forgot that
Frank Herbert's like, oh, he has a son, and then Paul's like, my son's dead. I'm dead inside. Let's keep going trying to kill everybody. And then
I forgot that his son dies. I actually forgot about that.
I know. I think it's in the miniseries Raban kills his son, if I remember right, which is cool.
That's cool.
But I like Raban doing things.
I like Raban in scenes.
I like Raban. It'd be so funny if in the movie they're like the animal Raban.
Oh, that'd be really good.
You really care about these characters. Like, even though he doesn't get as much time, I really was kind of, like, fascinated by Feyd. Like, the one time where he tries to, like, kill the Baron.
Yeah.
And, like, ingeniously. And then he's like, oh, fuck, I'm caught. And he's like, you're caught, but it's very clever of you. But it's not the time.
And it's so great because you're like, so whose side is Howard on? Who's he helping? Is he fucking everyone?
It's such a head trip.
He's helping and fucking everybody at the same time, hoping it will work some way.
And it does.
It does.
It does.
I but I want to talk about how they try to how Feyd tries to kill the Baron.
It's so good.
Where he gets him a slave boy.
Very nubile slave boy.
And Feyd knows how he handles the slave boys. Feyd hides a small needle.
With a shield over it.
On the inner thigh.
Yeah.
Of a slave boy.
So the idea is because the cool thing about shields is you can't pierce it with like a bullet or like anything that's quick. You have to slowly push through the shield and then you can stab someone. So the whole idea is the Baron would softly put his hand and then like slowly the needle would push into his hand and kill him. And I'm like, that's so ingenious. And then the Baron's like, was that Howit's idea? Like there's that bit, and then like the whole I will not let my family know. Feyd has that bit where he's like, I will not let my family know which blade has the poison on it. And,
the white and the black blade.
The white and the black blade.
I love his duel with Paul, where he's like, I got you with the poison blade. And he's like, I know you did. Oh. And then he realizes, Paul knows the word to immobilize me, and he didn't use it.
Oh, fuck.
Oh.
Yeah, really good. And there's that moment where, like, the Emperor's like, Count Fenring, you should kill Paul. And he's like, no, I'm afraid not. And then the Emperor punches him. He's like, I'm going to forget that it happened because we're good friends.
That line was one of my favorites in the entire book. He's like, I'm going to do you this favor because I consider you a friend. I'm going to forget you punched me.
Yeah, and it's like, And it's like, there's a moment where I'm like, I don't remember if he, like, fucking kills the Emperor right here. I just don't remember. We get other good stuff, like Kynes fucking...
Let's talk about Kynes, because Kynes is, like, awesome.
He starts at the book like the coolest fucking character.
Yeah, like, his dick is so huge.
Like he's at the table, like all these people are like debating him. He's like, "No, I'm afraid not."
Kynes is clearly Frank Herbert being like, "I did so much fucking research on sand dunes. You don't understand how much fucking research I did on sand dunes."
Because Nathan, I don't know if you know, but literally this whole thing came about because he was writing an article about ecology and was like, "I'm so fat. I'm gonna write a whole book in universe on this." And it's like, Frank, did you ever finish that article? No. And it's like, of course you didn't. But yeah, that's Liet Kynes. Liet Kynes is literally Frank Herbert's like author insert character review. You guys are all idiots. And
it's really great.
And it gets a pretty tragic end where he hallucinates his father. And
that is all set in ecology because it's all about like, I know that this is like a sand bubble thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm an ecologist, but like I need to get some like drink in me.
Yeah. And it's really sad.
His dad's just giving him his lesson. He's like, I already know this.
I will say that I wish that Shawnee had a monologue about Kynes. Because she does talk about him and how it affects her, but then afterwards she kind of like gets close to Paul. But I really wish that there was a scene of her saying, I'm going to continue my father's work.
Same with Stilgar. Because I didn't realize until way later that he was Kynes' brother.
Well, I love that like his death is... Clearly Frank was doing research.
Yeah.
And about the sand bubble thing was like...
Yeah.
How do I get someone to die from this? Like, this is so fucking crazy. I need someone to die from this thing. And he's like, all right, I got it.
Yeah, I got good.
Like, and I just love this idea of like going to this planet where like there's all these people there who are like used to just this cruel environment saying, listen, I know of some, like in the appendix it's great whenever like we got kind of like the guy comes to kill him and he's like, hey, I'm trying to talk here.
Listen.
And the guy's like, oh, I'm sorry.
Listen.
Doesn't he kill himself?
Yeah, he kills himself.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, listen, go away from me. He's like, well, I had a mission.
Oh.
It's so fucking funny.
Yeah. The Chris knives.
Chris knives are this weird thing for me.
It is kind of weird, isn't it?
Whenever Shout Out Maps is like, this Chris knife is like a holy relic and you are wielding it. And I'm like, oh, it's like a special thing. And then in the book, it's like, oh, everyone's got a fucking Chris knife.
Well, it's great. Well, it's like, if you see a Chris knife, you can never leave Dune. It's like, you're fucking fighting with them.
Then they all die.
Well, yeah, that's fair.
Most of them die. I think, like, when they spare Gurney's guys, the first time they don't die.
Yeah.
And they don't even spare them all. They kill most of them. And it's like, they killed, like, half my men.
Well, it's great. They kill half his men, and then they bring him in. It's like, oh, the other half are, like, traitors.
Oh.
So they spared Gurney.
They spared him.
But it's great because, like, you have Duncan Idaho gets given one. And
he gets given one.
And he's they're talking about it at Duke Leto's discussion.
That really long scene at the planning table.
Stilgar's dick is so big.
Yeah, it's great because
that iconic scene of Stilgar spitting and everyone freaking out, and then they're like, no, it's a sign of respect.
Can I just say, I really hope that Oscar Isaac is able to improvise a little bit of his reaction to that. I can just picture that happening and him like kind of looking to Duncan Idaho being like, do I spit back? Do I spit back?
Do I talk first?
Yeah, it's like a little like everyone was watching Star Wars. It's like, oh, it's like Poe Dameron. Oh,
kill yourself. Just fall on your Chris knife.
I want to point out that for a lot of people, that Poe Dameron is like one of their favorite characters of the sequel trilogy.
Well, he's one of the best,
and it's because he was originally meant to die off, but Oscar Isaac like fucking rolls natural 20s of charisma, and everyone's like, we have to keep him on. And
Duke Leto just somehow survives the whole Dune movie, and it's like, wait, what the fuck? That doesn't make any sense.
I almost made a joke, but Nathan's not there yet. If I say,
no, you can't.
If I say it,
don't say
it.
Don't.
Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, can't go there. You cannot go there.
You just imagine. I mean, it would fucking.
You can't go there.
It would fucking ruin it. But imagine that Duke Leto doesn't die, and in the end, he like sacrifices himself so Paul's son doesn't die.
Jesus.
No. Like, we just needed more Oscar Isaac.
No. You don't. You just need to put all his scenes that are in the book.
He's a whole subplot.
I mean, if there's like a half hour of flashbacks of
no, I do think we're gonna get flashbacks
and Leto,
but it's fine if there's flashbacks.
Yeah,
that's fine. Build because like it's great that like right after he dies, there's that chapter where like Frank Herbert like really hates you because he opens it and he's like, yeah, she was remembering like that romantic time on Caladan and looking into the Duke's eyes and how much she missed him, and she started crying and Paul pretended not to hear, and it's like, hey Frank Herbert, I hate you so much.
And is it before or after that scene where we finally get Paul going, hey, by the way, Mom, Dad never suspected you, and she's like, I already knew that.
Yeah, no, it's after that, and he's just like, she's like, oh my god.
Oh, by the way, you're a Harkonnen, and so am I.
By the way, you're a Harkonnen, and she's like, what?
Wait,
that's not true. I don't.
I'm a Harkonnen?
Oh my god, I'm a Harkonnen. So it's really cool because like there's that ironic scene of the Baron saying like, yeah, no, Harkonnen will become the Emperor, and in a way, he was right.
In some ways,
he was right. His descendant did become. It's also gross once you realize that, because there's that bit where he talks about wanting to fuck this slave boy who looks like Paul Atreides. It's like, that's your grandson, man. I know you don't know that, but really bad. I mean, you're an awful person, but you know, still, I would advise against this.
It's worse because he's so it's so fat. Does he have to like flip it up before?
He floats up.
It's why the suspense.
That's right.
You know?
He has to up it a little bit so it doesn't hang level. It hangs above.
Nathan, you know there's like a secret little latch.
Oh god.
Fat fuck.
I know. I love that bit where Alia kills him, and then he's like floating like inches off the floor, and it's like, Nobel Prize, Frank, Nobel Prize. Yeah.
I love that Gom Jabbar is set up in the first scene and used to kill the main villain. Quotes.
I'm glad it came back, and then Paul does get that bit where he bitch slaps Gaius Helena Mohayim, where he's like, yeah, I remember your Gom Jabbar. You will remember mine. I can kill you with a word. And she's just like, I believe you. Because he just goes like, hey, like all you people, look at you people, all you two-faced friends. And he just like proceeds to go through like the entire entourage of the Emperor and go like, you all suck. Urlin, like you'll be my wife, but like you all suck so bad. Emperor Shaddam, you're going to live on your prison planet and you're going to enjoy it. Don't worry, I'll make it a bit more hospitable for you. And he's like, how dare you? He's like, silence, please, before I kill you. It's so good because like the end of the book is like, hey, like I'm not sure I want my protagonist to be like this ruthless, but and like they're all those characters going like, yeah, he's more like his grandfather than his father, and it's like, and the whole, and like Jessica's like, she hated that old Duke.
The old Duke for a minute, who died as a matador
fighting a bull.
Yeah. But also there's that good scene where like how it's like she is the bull and I am the matador.
Yes. Yeah.
With Jessica.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
You were asking about Alia and I cut you off like an asshole.
Oh no, I was just saying like, what did you think about Alia as like a concept, as a character? As like a fucking abomination before God. Because like there's the scene where Jessica takes the water of life and then they're like, oh, you didn't tell us you were pregnant. And she's like, no. And then they're like, oh, that's good thing it wasn't a male. Would have died immediately. And then there's that trippy scene where she merges with the Reverend Mother and the Reverend Mother dies. And then Alia like gets exposed to it and she's like, this is not what a child should experience.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that was your first example of consciousness.
That's gonna be really hard to do on screen.
I know.
That's gonna be really hard to do on
Nathan,
screen.
We know.
Yeah, because we've seen 2 adaptations.
That's gonna be really hard to do on screen.
Yeah.
Like, I don't...
Well, I'm curious what Denis Villeneuve will do with showing the place where the Bene Gesserit cannot look, because it's like this horrible Lovecraftian...
I just want, like, Annihilation.
That's probably what it'll be. It'll be, like, some black version of that.
It'll be that, but combined with the floating in space from Get Out.
Yeah, it'll be just like that.
Oh, it's just the fountain. I don't know.
It's just the fountain.
Yeah.
You know, like, I really fucking enjoyed like 98% of this whole book.
Yeah, I have my problems with it, but like on the whole, I'd rather read this than some other shit that I've been reading.
Oh, like The Witcher.
I can't read those books, dude. They're so fucking bad.
Because like there's a few things with like you want more of the Harkonnens. I don't know. I'm trying.
And unfortunately, Brian and Kevin listened.
Well. You're right. We're not there yet. Maybe you'll love the prequel books. Maybe they'll be better than the original.
Maybe I'll eat my own shit and think it's chocolate.
But hey, we're not getting there for a
lot of drugs.
We need a lot of spice. We don't need to worry. We got 5 more books till we get to the Brian and Kevin stuff.
We don't
my
have to,
dear God, Jesus!
It's all okay.
We don't
now.
have to.
Well, not only do we have 5 books, we also have a movie, a fan edit, 2 miniseries. So there's a good buffer there.
We'll play some Dune games on Jocelyn Possible.
Plus Road to Dune, because I think that's a good little transition between the last of Frank Herbert, because in Road to Dune you get the deleted Dune and Dune Messiah chapters, which will be really cool to read, because it's like, oh, maybe you'll get some more content in there you were looking for that he thought was worth deleting. Any other thoughts? What are your thoughts on Dune?
How awesome was it that he wrote a sandworm?
That's pretty great.
Even though they immediately go, 12-year-olds can do better than you.
Well, I love...
Sardaukar, I fucking love you.
It's also really funny how... Again, it's the moment of exactly how it's going to happen, because they're like, they're going to build this up as some legendary thing, and they're like, I'll catch a big one, and all that, and he's like, oh, that's the biggest sandworm I've ever seen. It's like, well, of course it is. You're the chosen one. That's what's going to happen.
Oh, I don't know what to talk about. He's not the chosen one. That's a fucking Bene Gesserit lie.
Well,
oh yeah, that's the thing, is the chosen one is all a lie. It's entirely just good genetics and training.
Yes.
Like, that's the thing, is they set up Count Fenring as a failed Kwisatz Haderach, and he's a failed one because he was genetically a eunuch.
Yes.
So, theoretically, I mean, his powers probably aren't as advanced as Paul, but he's fucking dangerous as hell.
No, he's not the chosen one, he's a designed one.
So, and and Frank did that, he immediately goes like, oh yeah, like, how many other Kwisatz Haderachs have we had across history?
Yeah.
How many other super beings have been birthed because of this Bene Gesserit. I love that. It's a Bene Gesserit lie.
Yeah.
Because it is. It's just them going, they set up so many times, oh, our religious propaganda reached this planet too?
Yeah, I want to talk about that a bit.
Yeah, so many times. Like, they're just like, hey, the Bene Gesserit's reach is like every society.
Well, but the interesting thing is that it seems like it's kind of shown and implied that the Fremen religion has evolved and changed from what the Bene Gesserit originally wanted it to be.
Sure.
Because by the end of the book, they kind of go, Paul is still fulfilling all of the Fremen prophecies, but he's fucking up horrifically what the Bene Gesserit designed those prophecies to do.
Yes, because the Bene Gesserit just want to control the Kwisatz Haderach.
Yeah.
Which is the whole point. But then Jessica kind of went rogue out of love. Because they say it's a really cool concept, but they're like, yeah, so you were supposed to birth a daughter, and she was supposed to wed Feyd-Rautha, and that would have been the Kwisatz Haderach that we could control.
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, that's not exactly what happened. And then it's just like, well,
why did you do that?
Yeah, why would we do that? So it just comes back to bite them in the ass. I think they say like it's like 10,000 years or something of controlled breeding. And...
Yep.
Yeah, which is cool whenever like the mother's like, Jessica, control your child, and she's like, you control him.
Aww. Dude, yeah, like Frank Herbert, just like the whole book is so good at just like fuck you moments. Like just like, oh yeah, like you ever been cucked?
The Bene Gesserit will go to planets and like establish like prophecies that then later, like, I love the one where Jessica's like, oh no, it's that prophecy here? This must be a terrible planet.
Yeah, they're just like, oh god. How much of this prophecy is like an actual prophecy, like a traditional story, and how much of it is just a fucking lie that Paul's just using for like his own means? And it's like, it's a filthy Bene Gesserit lie. The Kwisatz Haderach is bullshit, it's because clearly Paul is super powerful, but it's just there's been others like him. So it just raises a whole lot of lore questions.
Yeah, Fenring is like, it's so cool, and it's like, oh.
Because he's there. He's not dead. He's still around. And it's like, Paul did see himself dead, and we don't know how old he was when he died. So maybe Fenring might finally get him at some point. We don't know. Yeah. I'm just saying. He's still around. That's why he's so intriguing, because it's just like he has like one scene, and then he's at the end, and it's like, kill Paul. And then Fenring's like, I could kill him. No. It's just like, I'm afraid not.
I love whenever Paul's fighting Feyd. He's like, I could die here, but it still wouldn't stop the jihad.
Oh, it's so bad, because, like, the whole book, he's like, I'm going to stop the jihad, and, like, the end of the book should be, and Paul brought absolute peace to the universe. And the end is him going, is everyone going, you can't release, like, I think it's Mohayim who says, please don't release these people on the universe. He's like, I can't stop that, and neither can you. This is depressing as fuck. He knows that, like, millions of people are going to die now in his name. And it's
pretty
like,
great.
Oh, this is not the story of Luke Skywalker.
No,
not at all.
No.
Really good.
Can I just say that the entire episode just has been drinking straight out of a bottle of wine?
Yeah.
It's been pretty awesome to watch.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
Spice.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Oh, it's my birthday. Recording Dune on my birthday.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Is today your birthday?
Yeah.
It's my birthday now, yeah.
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Wow.
Jolly good. But yeah, no, any other topics about lore or characters, anything? And there's a lot that...
Why call it a thopper?
I don't know.
Or a glow bulb?
I think it's globe.
I'm sorry, glow bulb is wheel of time.
Oh, that... Fucking hack fraud.
Fat fuck.
Fat fuck. God damn it. It all comes back to Dune. God damn it.
No, I think this book is really good. Like, it's funny. I read Dune and I was like, I got some problems with it, but it was really great.
Yeah.
And I tried doing some other shit and I was like, oh, fuck, I miss Dune. Because here's the problem with being in a book club and reading all the time and finishing first. How do you find another book that's, like, similar enough, but, like, different enough to not be the same of quality?
That's very difficult.
It's hard. It was very hard.
I lucked out incredibly when I was reading through Wheel of Time, and then you were like, hey, you should read Mistborn. I was like,
yeah, fuck you.
I'll flip-flop.
Fuck you for that.
Like, oh, this is so much better.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for the next book, Nathan?
The next book?
Yeah. Or the movie, I guess. Like, both. How excited are you for the movie and the book?
The movie, like 11 out of 10.
Wait, the Lynch one or the Denny one?
The Denny one.
Oh, well, that's not what I'm talking about. I mean the Lynch one.
Oh, the Lynch one? Like a 4 or 5.
Oof. That's not good.
That's very not good.
What about the next Dune Messiah, the next book?
Dune Messiah, you said it's your favorite.
I remember it being my favorite. Like, for me, it was the most, like... The way it followed the plot, like the themes it dealt with and like how compact it was my favorite. But again, this is very old memories. I remember liking the prequels, and now I'm like, I don't think I will.
Yeah, I'd say like a 6 or 7 from what because I've looked at some stuff online.
Whoa, all right.
Whoa.
I haven't. Not anything about the story.
Yes,
just fan reaction, and it's fairly spread out.
Nobody cares.
There are people that are like, I only like Dune, the rest is garbage. There's people that are, I only like Frank Herbert. There's people that are like, I like all of it.
Yeah.
Just very, very interesting across the board. So I'll be interested to see where the next book will be similar to Dune and where it will be different. Like maybe what are the points that people dislike about it or what else. So I'm interested to see where it goes, but I also...
Because does Dune feel like... Because to me it does, but does Dune feel like a complete story? Or do you need more?
That's kind of thing, as I don't need more. Like, there's so much room for more stories, but at the same time, it's like, we kind of resolved the main issue.
In fact, you can see there's room for 16 more stories.
I would say 5 more, because 6, technically, if you count the book he tragically didn't get to make, which apparently they used his notes to make. Fucking hack frauds.
Yeah, show those notes.
But anyway, Sal, what about you? Or how excited are you I mean, you saw the Lynch version. We were kind of watching a bit of it recently.
I mean,
but
I love the David Lynch movie.
I do too.
It's got some caveats to it.
It's definitely not one of the best adaptations I've ever seen.
I don't want to talk about, because I don't want to give Nathan an impression.
Can I ask one thing surrounding... You can choose.
You can ask, but I can choose not to respond.
Okay. What number movie is this that David Lynch is directing?
Like, wait, what do you mean?
What?
Like Alien 3 was the first movie he directed, which, how many...
he had done Eraserhead and Elephant Man, and then he got given Dune.
Okay.
So it's his third film, but his first, like, big film. And so, consequently, there was a lot of studio interference.
Okay.
Which is kind of what surrounds the movie, is people, like...
Much like Alien 3.
Much like Alien 3. In fact, Dune is kind of something he disowns. So it's very similar to Alien 3. How excited are you for Dune Messiah?
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
I don't think I give a number to it. I'm just like...
Sure, yeah.
Pumped. Because, like...
As soon as I finished Dune, I just wanted to read, like, Dune Messiah.
No, me too, which is why I get sucked. Because I was like, fuck, what do I do now? But then I started reading the Warhammer books, which is a gift.
brief summary of what we're doing next. We're doing it order of release, except when it comes to like adaptations. So we're not going to do the adaptations like in 84. We're going to do it now because immediately after the book that it's based on. So we're going to do Dune, this first book, Dune 84. The Redux will just be part of that. The miniseries, and then we'll move on to Dune Messiah, and then we'll do Children of Dune, because the Children of Dune miniseries kind of adapts both. And then we'll just do the rest of the Herbert books.
And then we'll stop, and then we'll read something else.
No.
Maybe.
Road to Dune. And then we'll have transitioned into out of Frank Herbert, that hack fraud, into the much superior work of his son. I'm going to get lynched in the street. Ha! Lynch.
David Lynch.
David Lynch. David, I'm going to lynch you for saying anything good about the... Thank you so much for listening to our first book discussion.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting. I feel like we covered it. I'm kind of against sequentially going through things, because it's like, I don't feel like it's a natural way to have the conversation sometimes, because it's like, oh, and then now we have to go into like what this scene was and this, and it's like, just read, like if you've read the book, you know. So like I think it's easier for us to just kind of go with what our minds go to with like some kind of a structure, not complete.
Kind of just divided up by character arcs, really.
Character arcs is a good one. Yeah, I think that's good. Thank you so much for watching our first book review of Dune. Again, you shall see the 1984 David Lynch film soon. Our review of that be very interesting as we build up to this Denis Villeneuve project, and because I think Dune's just a good series to go through, and it's a very interesting time because they finally stopped writing books for now. What do you want to bet that like in 2020 Brian and Kevin get one last book out to time with the movie? I think they'll get like one more.
I bet $5.
I'll bet 10.
All right.
Or like a few months after.
All right, yeah.
They'll like miss it because even though they're good at deadlines.
No, Kevin J. Anderson never miss a deadline.
Have to.
The point is that they're gonna write another fucking Dune book, and I want them to stop. The last book was in 2016.
And all I'm saying is when you make a bet, there's generally one person thinks it will happen, one person
Yeah, but see, Nathan, what I did there? Subverted your expectations.
Spoilers to the fucking escape pod finale.
Oh, sorry.
Can we all kill ourselves?
No, we just don't get saved.
We gotta watch something so bad.
We're stuck in the escape pod, so like escape pods, they run out of shit. Like I don't know how much food you guys brought onto this.
Well, it was my birthday, so I had a lot.
I ate.
That's true.
I ate my food already.
Ate some steak.
Wow.
I had my slave boy bring me some, and oh boy, yeah. Anyway, we're jerking ourselves off too much.